A bottle does not exist to be admired, it exists to hold. And what it holds is less important than how it holds it, whether it grips tightly or allows flow, whether it conceals or reveals, whether it preserves or transforms. The bottle you choose reveals not what you contain, but how you contain it, how you hold your experiences, your emotions, your truth. Today, we invite you to choose the vessel that has been holding you all along. Before you are 4 bottles: a cracked clay bottle, a crystal clear glass, a vintage wine bottle, and a modern minimalist flask. Do not choose the one that looks most beautiful. Do not select the one you think you should choose. Do not pick the one that seems most spiritual or evolved. Instead, ask yourself, which bottle feels familiar? Which one holds the way you hold? Which one has been carrying your water all this time without you realizing it? Alan Watts once said that the only Zen you find on the tops of mountains is the Zen you bring up there. So choose the bottle you are already carrying. Your choice is made. Now, let us see what it reveals about how you have been holding yourself together. If the cracked clay bottle called to you, you know that brokenness is not something to hide. You are not perfect. You are not sealed. There are cracks running through you where the light gets in and the pain leaks out, and you have stopped pretending otherwise. You do not present yourself as whole when you are fractured. You do not offer perfection when you are still learning how to hold your own pieces together. This is your honesty. You carry your wounds openly, not because you are proud of them, but because you understand that to hide them is to deny half of what makes you human. The cracks in the clay are not defects. They are the evidence that you have been filled and emptied and filled again, that you have survived being broken. People trust you because you do not pretend to have it all together. You do not offer them the polished version. You show them the clay, the cracks, the places where you are still learning how to hold water without losing all of it, and in your brokenness, they find permission to be broken too. You are the wounded healer, the one who has been shattered and chose to keep holding anyway, the one who knows that the most beautiful vessels are the ones that have been broken and mended until the cracks themselves become the art. But the cracked clay bottle carries a danger you do not always see. Because when you identify with your wounds, you can forget that you are also capable of healing. When your cracks become your identity, you can resist being mended because you do not know who you would be without them. You wear your brokenness like armor. You speak about your trauma with a strange kind of pride. You have made a home in your wounds, and the thought of leaving them behind feels like abandoning yourself, so you stay broken. Not because you cannot heal, but because healing would require you to become someone new, and new is terrifying. The cracked clay bottle leaks, and you have convinced yourself that the leaking is wisdom. That because you cannot hold everything, you are somehow more authentic than those who can. But what if the leaking is not wisdom? What if it is just unhealed pain that you have romanticized because facing it directly is too hard? Watts would ask you, are you honoring your wounds, or are you clinging to them? Are you healing, or are you performing healing while staying exactly where you are? Watts taught that the obstacle is the path, but the path is not an endless loop around the same obstacle. The cracked clay bottle has taught you that brokenness is not shameful, that wounds are part of the human experience, that you do not need to be perfect to be valuable. But what it is teaching you now is that acknowledging your cracks is not the same as healing them. That honesty about your wounds is not a substitute for doing the work to mend them. You are learning this, that you can honor your past without living in it, that you can acknowledge your brokenness without making it your entire identity, that the cracks in the clay can be sealed not to hide them, but to allow the vessel to hold what it was meant to hold. The Japanese art of kintsugi repairs broken pottery with gold, making the cracks more beautiful than the original surface. But the key is this: the pottery is repaired. It is not left broken and called art. The gold is added after the mending, not instead of it. This is your teaching, that you are allowed to heal. That healing does not mean forgetting. That you can mend your cracks and still honor that they existed. That the most powerful thing you can do is not stay broken to prove your authenticity, is to become whole again, and show others that wholeness after brokenness is possible. If you chose the cracked clay bottle, you carry your wounds with courage. You do not need to stay broken to remain authentic. You only need to trust that healing does not erase your story, it completes it. Your true self is not the cracks. It is the clay that holds its shape even when fractured. The essence that remains, regardless of how many times you have been broken. And when you finally allow yourself to be mended, not hidden, but truly healed, you will discover that you were never defined by your wounds. You were only defined by how you chose to carry them. If the crystal clear glass called to you, you cannot tolerate opacity. You need to see what you are holding. You need to know what is inside. You cannot function in ambiguity, in half-truths, in relationships or situations where things are hidden or unspoken. You are the bottle that reveals everything, what you contain and what you do not. There is no deception, no performance, no carefully curated version of yourself designed to hide what you think is unacceptable. This is your power. You offer radical transparency. You speak the truth, even when it is uncomfortable. You show people exactly who you are, what you feel, what you think, and you do not soften it to make them comfortable. You understand that clarity is kindness, that honesty, even when it stings, is more loving than the gentlest lie. People know where they stand with you because you do not hide. You do not play games. You do not manipulate or obscure. If there is poison in your glass, it is visible. If there is purity, that is visible too. You are the same on the inside as you are on the outside, and that integrity is rare and powerful. You are the transparent one, the one who has decided that being seen fully is more important than being liked conditionally. But the crystal clear glass carries a brittleness that can shatter you. Because when you show everything, you are also exposed to everything. When you hide nothing, you have no protection. Transparency is powerful, but it is also exhausting. You give people access to all of you, and some of them use that access to hurt you. And you do not understand why, because you offered them truth, and they repaid you with betrayal. You have no filter, no boundary between what should be shared and what should be held privately. You tell the truth, even when the truth is not yours to tell. You reveal things about yourself that others would keep hidden, and you judge them for their secrecy, without recognizing that privacy is not the same as dishonesty. The crystal clear glass is beautiful, but it is fragile. One impact and it shatters. And you have shattered so many times from being too open, too exposed, too willing to show your contents to people who were not ready to honor what they saw. Watts would ask you, is transparency always wisdom? Or is there a difference between being honest and being unprotected? Between showing yourself clearly and offering yourself to anyone who looks? Watts once said that the menu is not the meal, but he also said that you cannot bite your own teeth. The crystal clear glass has taught you that honesty is powerful, that integrity means being the same inside and out, that deception is a form of suffering. But what it is teaching you now is that transparency without discernment is not wisdom, that showing everything to everyone is not the same as being authentic, that you can be honest without being unprotected. You are learning this, that clarity includes knowing what to reveal and to whom, that boundaries are not the same as walls, that you can be transparent and still have a container, that the clearest glass is valuable precisely because it holds something it does not just exist to be seen through. The crystal clear glass is meant to hold water, wine, medicine. But it is not meant to be open at all times. It has a top, a seal, a way of containing what it holds, so that what is inside is not spilled carelessly or taken without permission. This is your teaching, that you do not need to hide to be safe. You only need to learn that not everyone deserves access to everything, that your truth is valuable, and valuable things are shared carefully, not scattered to anyone who glances in your direction. If you chose the crystal clear glass, you know that honesty is not optional. You do not need to become opaque to protect yourself. You only need to learn that transparency can include boundaries, that being clear does not mean being open to everyone. Your true self is not the transparency. It is the awareness that can be seen and still remain whole, that can reveal itself without being consumed by the revealing. And when you finally learn to offer your clarity selectively to those who have earned the right to see inside, you will discover that you were never too much. You were only giving yourself to people who were not ready to hold you. If the vintage wine bottle called to you, you understand that some things only become valuable through time. You do not believe in instant transformation. You do not trust quick fixes or shortcuts, or anyone who promises you can become new overnight. You know that the deepest changes happen slowly, that wisdom ferments, that the self, like wine, must be aged before it can be fully appreciated. This is your patience. You are willing to wait, to let experiences settle, to allow time to do its work on you without rushing the process. Where others seek immediate results, you commit to the long maturation. You plant seeds, knowing you will not see the harvest for years. You invest in relationships that will not pay dividends until decades have passed. People respect your depth because they can taste it. They know you are not performing wisdom. You have earned it through years of sitting with yourself, through seasons of difficulty that you did not try to skip, through patience that most cannot sustain. You are the vintage bottle, the one that knows some things cannot be rushed. That age is not just the passage of time, it's the accumulation of experience transformed into something richer than it was when it was new. But the vintage wine bottle carries a trap disguised as virtue. Because when you believe everything must be aged, you can use time as an excuse for inaction. You tell yourself you are being patient when you are actually avoiding. You say you are letting things mature when you are just afraid to open the bottle and discover what is actually inside. You hold on to relationships that expired years ago because you have invested so much time that leaving would mean admitting the investment was wasted. You stay in situations that no longer serve you because you have built your identity on endurance, on commitment, on the belief that loyalty to the past is the highest virtue. The vintage wine bottle becomes a prison. You keep adding years, thinking that more time will make the contents better, never realizing that some things do not improve with age. They just become old, stale, sour. But you cannot admit this because you have told yourself and everyone else that time makes everything valuable. Watts would ask you, are you aging or are you avoiding? Is patience wisdom, or is it fear of discovering that all these years of waiting have not transformed you the way you hoped they would? Watts taught that the eternal now is the only time that exists. The vintage wine bottle has taught you to honor time, to respect process, to trust that some transformations cannot be rushed. But what it is teaching you now is that not everything needs to age. That some experiences are meant to be tasted fresh. That sometimes the most profound wisdom is recognizing when something is ready, even if it has not been as long as you thought it should be. You are learning this, that time is not the only ingredient in transformation. That patience without action is just procrastination dressed in virtue. That the bottle is meant to be opened eventually, and if you wait too long, what is inside becomes vinegar. The vintage wine bottle holds its value because it knows when to be opened. Not too soon, but also not never. The art is in the timing, in recognizing when the aging is complete and the drinking should begin. This is your teaching, that you can honor the past without being imprisoned by it. That you can value time without using it as an excuse. That sometimes the wisest thing you can do is not wait longer. It finally open the bottle and discover what all that time has created. If you chose the vintage wine bottle, you know that depth is earned through time. You do not need to rush your becoming to matter. You only need to recognize when the aging is done and the living should begin. Your true self is not the years. It is the awareness that exists outside of time, that can honor the past and be fully present without being trapped by either. And when you finally learn to open the bottle instead of endlessly storing it, you will discover that you were never meant to be preserved forever. You were meant to be tasted, to be shared, to be experienced while the vintage is still good. If the modern minimalist flask called to you, you do not have time for decoration. You are the one who has stripped everything down to what is essential. You do not carry excess. You do not complicate what can be simple. You do not add meaning where function is enough. The flask holds water. It does its job, and that is all it needs to do. This is your clarity. You have learned to distinguish between what matters and what is just noise. You cut through the philosophical pretense. You do not need elaborate explanations for your choices. You do not wrap your life in layers of symbolism and metaphor. You are direct, efficient, clear. People are relieved by your practicality, by your refusal to overcomplicate, by your ability to look at a problem and immediately identify the simplest solution. You do not get lost in existential spirals. You do not mistake complexity for depth. You understand that the most profound truths are often the simplest ones. You are the minimalist flask, the one who has learned that less is not lack, it is freedom. That stripping away the unnecessary reveals what was essential all along. But the modern minimalist flask carries a coldness that can hollow you out. Because when you reduce everything to function, you can lose touch with feeling. When you eliminate all decoration, you can forget that beauty matters. When you strip away everything that is not essential, you can accidentally discard what makes life worth living. You pride yourself on efficiency, on not wasting time on things that do not serve a purpose. But Watts would ask you, who decides what serves a purpose? Who told you that meaning must be functional, that value must be measurable, that what cannot be optimized should be eliminated? You have become so focused on what works that you have forgotten to ask what it feels like. You move through life checking boxes, achieving goals, completing tasks. And at the end of the day, you sit with your minimalist flask and wonder why you feel empty when you have eliminated all waste. The minimalist flask holds water, but it does not make the water taste better. It does not enhance the experience of drinking. It does not create ritual or beauty or meaning around the simple act of being hydrated. It just functions. And you have built a life that just functions. And somewhere in the stripping away, you lost the part of yourself that knows how to savor. Watts once said that this is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now. The minimalist flask has taught you to eliminate distraction, to focus on what is essential, to move through life without being weighed down by unnecessary baggage. But what it is teaching you now is that efficiency is not the same as engagement, that simplicity without presence is just emptiness with good design. You are learning this, that meaning is not always functional, that beauty is not always efficient, that some of the most important things in life serve no practical purpose at all, that the decoration you eliminated was not always excess, sometimes it was the thing that made the water worth drinking. The minimalist flask is powerful because it does not distract from the water, but the water itself needs no vessel. If all you care about is hydration, you could drink from your hands. The flask exists not just to hold water, but to make the act of drinking intentional, beautiful, human. This is your teaching, that you can be simple without being sterile, efficient without being cold, minimal without being empty. That the essential includes not just what keeps you alive, but what makes being alive feel like something worth doing. If you chose the modern minimalist flask, you know that clarity comes from subtraction. You do not need to complicate your life to live deeply. You only need to remember that depth is not the same as function, that meaning is not always measurable. Your true self is not the efficiency. It is the awareness that can be both simple and full, both clear and rich, both minimal and alive. And when you finally allow yourself to add back the beauty you eliminated in the name of simplicity, you will discover that you are never wasting time. You are only learning what it feels like to be human. Bottles do not create what they hold. They only shape how it is contained, how it is poured, how it is experienced. Carl Jung understood that the vessel is the psyche itself. The cracked clay holding wounds that leak. The clear glass revealing everything without protection. The vintage bottle preserving time until it turns bitter. The minimalist flask eliminating everything that is not essential, including essence itself. But Alan Watts would say this: you are not the bottle, you are the water, the wine, the medicine. The thing being held, not the thing doing the holding. The bottle you chose reveals how you have been containing yourself, how you have been holding your experiences, your pain, your truth. But it does not define what you are, because what you are cannot be contained. The test was never about which bottle you chose. It was about recognizing that you are not the vessel. You are what flows, what fills, what spills, what transforms. You are not the bottle. You are the life that moves through it. So what now? Perhaps you saw yourself in the bottle you chose. Perhaps you recognized how you have been holding yourself together. Perhaps you felt uncomfortable because the bottle revealed a pattern you did not know you were living. All of this is part of the seeing. You are not here to find the right bottle. You are here to notice how you have been containing yourself. What you have been holding. What you have been hiding. What you have been spilling. Today, you chose one bottle. Tomorrow, you may choose another. Not because you are wrong, but because you are changing. Because the wounded are learning to mend. Because the transparent are learning boundaries. Because the keepers of time are learning to live now. Because the functional are learning to feel. Do not make the bottle your identity. Let it show you something, and then choose a different way of holding if you need to. Because the truth is, you are not the cracked clay, not the clear glass, not the vintage bottle, not the minimalist flask. You are the water that takes the shape of any container and remains water. The life that flows through any form and remains life. And that fluidity, that capacity to move and change and adapt, is the only self you need to know. Alan Watts once said, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." Today, you chose a bottle. But the bottle was not the point. The point was to see how you have been containing yourself, how you have been holding what you carry, how you have been relating to your own capacity. The bottle revealed something about your current shape, but it cannot define what you are, because what you are is not solid. It is fluid. It changes. It flows. So hold yourself in whatever vessel you need, but never forget, you are not the container. You are what is being held. And what is being held is infinite, regardless of the limits of the bottle. The bottle may crack. The glass may shatter. The vintage may sour. The flask may rust. But what you, Arthur awareness, the consciousness, the life itself, remains unchanged, untouched, uncontained. And that is all you ever needed to know. If something in this reflection poured into you, if you recognized yourself in the bottle you chose, we invite you to share it in the comments below. Not to explain, not to defend, but simply to acknowledge what you saw. To witness and be witnessed by others who are also learning how they hold themselves together. Each comment is a pouring. Each share is an offering. And together, we create the space where all of us are learning that we are not our containers, we are what they hold. And subscribe to this channel so we can grow together. There are more reflections waiting, more symbols, more invitations to see yourself clearly without being defined by what you see. Stay, not because you need to, but because something in you recognizes this as the place where you can finally be held without being contained. And until we meet again, remember this: you are not the bottle, you are the water. And water cannot be broken, cannot be owned, cannot be contained for long. It always finds a way to flow. See you in the next reflection.